Hello, I'm Lucia Dello, and this is SEO in 2025.
This year, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
It is to prove the value of your e-commerce SEO.
Prove the value of it. How do you prove the value of it?
Well, I think that from what we really want to do is actually say in this world where acquisition remains a challenge for us and marketing budgets are tight, we want to actually show that we can actually show that the SEO is bringing in the people we want. Retailers are looking well beyond actually in terms of a campaign level basis. They want to understand their whole sales portfolio, how it's growing over time. So you want to actually show that rather than just stopping at the level of the activity, showing there's some activity engagement and then a sale being made. If you can carry on to show what kind of products are sold and then how the retention goes, you can then align yourself to these retailers' goals.
Okay, and if we're trying to prove it, does that mean that we have to focus as far down the funnel as possible?
Absolutely, I think so, because the retailers are ultimately looking at things that are going to bring in their cash flow. So they want to understand, what's bringing in cost-effective acquisition, how their retention's working over time to make sure they're getting the money in. Then they also want to check that their product margins are working, they've got enough stock for the right levels, so that they can then actually do the selling, get the margins and the profit they need. And if we can actually show in our SEO who the people we bring in and then track them all the way across downstream, we can actually show the SEO contribution and then separate that off and then compare that, say, to paid advertising or some other promotions which are going on.
I guess the challenge with that is that it reduces the motivation, the worth in actually targeting top of the funnel terms.
In a way, yes, but then at the longer term, it actually shows that you can follow it all the way through, so you then know where you want to go. So I think that what it does do, which it probably is harder to see, is actually you're not just stopping at the activity point, but when you can take it all the way through, you can really see actually, because certainly within Shopify, for every single order made, we can then attach a UTM code to that. So if you can attach the UTM codes, you can actually see where these orders are coming from. So on a campaign level or on a cohort level, you can actually see how that SEO did perform.
So does this mean that in a world where we're all competing for marketing budget, that SEO is competing more face-to-face with paid advertising?
I think it can prove what it's doing. I think, if you do a paid advertising, you definitely get a set of stats saying this is a result from it. And I think in the SEO world, it's always been a little bit harder to get that kind of attribution all the way downstream. I think that providing a method of doing this, you can then get more of a comparison, actually show this is my SEO impact on the overall portfolio, this is the number of new customers brought in, and then this is how they behaved over time. I think that's really good evidence against the paid campaigns, which can be a bit, closer to the end, but SEO starts one or two stages back.
And what about the fact that the consumer jumps about a lot nowadays on different platforms, perhaps on TikTok, perhaps on other social platforms, and it's difficult to track exactly what they do? Can we still track organic successfully by doing that?
I think we can, and that no method is perfect, but you can choose the first or the last code UTM before an order is placed. So if you decide on a proxy and you stick with it, you can then get a level of clarity there. But I think that we all know that lots of different forms of advertising eventually pay off. But I think we can definitely attribute sales to a certain endpoint. I think it's worthwhile doing that.
And what does this mean for different attribution models then? Is it still worthwhile having some kind of standard perceived attribution model for a consumer?
I think attribution is important, but I don't think it's the end goal. I think attribution is very much a way of trying to work in a world of uncertainty to say what the impact of something is. But at the end of the day, from a retailer's point of view, they're interested in what products are being sold, who's buying them, are they buying once, are they buying a repeated number of times? So if we can then focus ourselves so we know that the budget is being allocated, we know that with a certain amount of people we attract, then spend again, we can then target those people, we know that's a successful campaign. For me, that's a lot more powerful, a lot more actionable than really focusing on an attribution, which is at the end of the day just one measure.
Okay, so I guess that means that you're more of a fan of omni-channel marketing as opposed to just focusing on one channel, and that you mentioned kind of going back to the consumer there almost, so perhaps actually using SEO as an initial referrer and then perhaps blending that with retargeting just to enhance the conversion rates.
I think it's definitely worth it. I think there's a lot of focus, in my opinion, there's a bit too much focus on attracting new customers all the time. Whereas a lot of people, if they've got an established retail business, it tends to be the same customers that buy again and again. We can see the customers that buy the most often got the most spend there, and then we can see how their behaviour is changing over time. So for me, that's a hugely powerful way. And we all know that it costs less to market to our existing customers. So if we can get the right people in and get them engaged early on, I think there's huge value in that for the retailers.
Is there a role for SEO in repeat customers?
There's a way, if we run a successful SEO campaign, we can then identify who's bringing the repeat customers. So we can know SEO's contribution of bringing these customers that then spend repeatedly. So a more successful SEO campaign, we know that the engagement is going to be sitting behind it rather than a less successful campaign.
Is there a big limitation to the way that you see these kinds of activities being done nowadays by SEOs? And is what you're advocating going to significantly assist with boosting conversion rates, for example?
I think it's kind of the proof. I think that, if you put the endpoint as a sale being made, you're then missing actually the future behaviour of these people. So for everybody that buys once, a certain number of people who you've attracted to that campaign are going to buy again and again and turn out to be very valuable customers. And I think that if we stop measuring at the point when that sale is initially made, we then lose this rich data and this history. And I think in the SEO world, this is very valuable because it actually show the value of the people that are brought in and their lifetime contribution. I think that's the thing which is the limitation today, that although engagement and activity are exciting, if we can actually say, well, the SEO-driven sales have led to this future impact on the portfolio, people buying 1 times, 5 times, 10 times, I think that's where it's going to work really well. So we know these people are coming in, and then if the retailer can then get the schemes to incentivize people again.
Interesting. So what you're saying is then it's the lifetime value of a customer that counts. And if a customer comes back maybe 10 times to purchase the same thing again or additional things from you in the future, then that sale value should be counted towards the marketing channel referring medium.
I think definitely yes. And also the product as well, what project they came in on, because you can also track which products these people are attracted to. So if they've managed to go with a certain product mix, we manage to attract people through an SEO getting a certain product mix. And then we can then see that product mix in its combination, how that works for the first sale. And the retailers say it's particularly got a lot of stock of one item they're trying to shift, or if there's a good margin on it, we can show the SEO has actually affected that particular set of people who we particularly wanted to target or a particular product we wanted to shift.
So how honed are retailers' goals towards being able to give credit to different marketing channels like this? Or is this an education piece that's necessary for agencies or SEO professionals or other digital marketers to assist the retailer with?
So I think the retailer's a bit stuck in a way. They've got paid advertising, they've got the SEO advertising, they've got a blend they've got to decide in their portfolio. They've also got budget to put against acquisition activity, against retention activity, then the debate, do we keep our marketing internal or external? So I think a lot of things go on within this kind of retail space that they're trying to balance. So the more evidence we can give them to actually say this is something that's happened, this is where to focus your efforts, then the more happy they are with it. So I think it's about trying to get this framework and get the right blend for an individual.
And is there any best way of going about doing that to ensure that the retailer listens? Is this something that needs to be done, for example, at the beginning of a client relationship before an agency actually starts working with them, or an ongoing conversation perhaps on a quarterly basis?
I think a bit of both. I think it's setting the seed early on. I think often retailers have this kind of, there's a silo, they get the marketing data and reports sit in one place, then all the orders and the customer transactions sit in another place. And it's quite hard often to see the same picture, bring it all together, see that influence going across. So if we can find a way of actually doing it, I think that's hugely valuable. But the more packs that sit there and the more different information, the more measures, the harder it is to really get this kind of unified view of the portfolio. So I think the more we can do together, to work together, to bring together, not have it as a completely separate dividing activity, then the easier it is. Certainly at the operational level of the business, when they want to review the high-level performance, set the strategy rather than looking at the day-to-day, we can get to the answer behind some of these questions. Think about how to frame it and understand it.
So talking about reporting, how is the average SEO reporting to a retailer at the moment, and how can that be improved?
Very much focused around engagement activity. So there's a lot of stats, which are all very important things to do. Obviously, we need to get people visiting the website or whatever social media channels. You need to get them engaged. You need to get them active. We generally rely on the attribution to say a sale happened here. But at that point is kind of where it really stops. And then the business goes away and looks at their products they were trying to sell. They look at the stock, they look at their margins, they look at people are buying one time, buying again. But just trying to get those two together, I think, is where the real issue is. And I think that is quite a shift.
Okay, so it's really understanding the retailer's goals then. What are typical goals that the retailer sets?
So often the retailer, they might have in their stock of products, they know they've got some best sellers that sell very well. And they've also maybe got the bottom 20% of their products sit there in very slow sellers. They might have a goal to actually get rid of a lot of their low performing stock. And then they could put more budget into the best selling items to make sure those are always in stock. So therefore, they might want to run a campaign where they can actually get rid of some of these underperformers and reduce the stock that they're holding. And the one way to do that is obviously through their SEO. If they can manage to get their SEO on these products that they're trying to move, they advertise a sale or promotion. So it all kind of links together that way, or if it's a seasonal thing as well. If seasonally they've got a set of goals they want to achieve for Black Friday, and then they can then look at that and kind of work their way backwards.
So, setting goals for Black Friday is easier for SEOs because they can plan towards it. They know what kind of date they're aiming for with regards to optimization and hopefully driving some organic traffic.
Yep.
One-off sale items, I guess, can be a little bit more challenging because you're not necessarily sure from this week to the next which items the client is going to focus on in terms of wanting to shift. Are there any tricks that you can recommend that SEOs should be doing to try and surface a page relatively quickly to make that sale page more prominent?
There's a lot about communication, I think, if a retailer's in the habit of actually knowing, what items they're wanting to shift and looking at this kind of more, if they've got the data there and they're saying, actually, I know I've got these items here, I know they're moving slowly. So if they could be having these regular conversations and month by month kind of saying, well, this is a product category we want to focus on, it's this area, it's coming up to summer, this is the end of summer, these are these items. So I think it's more this kind of ongoing conversation, thinking actually what they want to do in the business, sharing that information more with the SEO company. Then the SEO company can then help advise it as well. So really trying to think actually how can we work together rather than saying this is my sales target, go away and deliver it.
Is there generally a way to automate this? I'm thinking that if the retailer has some kind of online spreadsheet that lists upcoming items, then perhaps SEOs can take this and automatically surface those pages prior to them being available on the website more prominently to purchase?
Yes, and it's also about forecasting as well. If the retailer is able to estimate, look at their stock levels, look at the current sales going on, they can also estimate which ones are coming up, going to be more difficult to get rid of all this coming up. So the more information they've got about what they want to do, the more easy it is to pass that information on as well. But once you kind of know, if you set up a strategy to say, well, these are the people I want to focus on, this is my methodology, then it's much easier to get that communication across. So I advocate Excel spreadsheets. You might do on a piece of paper to start with, or if you've got some kind of dashboard solution, you might be able to create some kind of customized reports or some of the external package you buy around your sales and stock.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2025?
So I think that SEOs spend they spend a lot of time on the manual reports. There's a lot of manual reports that sit there. There's ad hoc things being created. Every single client's asking for something very different. So actually the amount of time they spend generating all these extra reports makes it hard to actually get to a strategic thing. So if they can spend their time putting together a proper deck, get all the information to one place, automate it, it's not going to save any time at all in the short term in 2025. But given 6 or 9 months down the line, they'll actually have this automized, customized set of reports that gives the information they need. And therefore, I think that's the time saving.
Do you have any favored software to use for this automation?
Well, obviously, I've got my own solution, which I've been talked to you about before, haven't I, David? Which is one where I'm really, so I take all the sales data off Shopify, the WooCommerce platform, put into a dashboard, clean it, and then we're applying all the filters to get to the information fairly quickly. And we're developing that all the time. That's one solution. There's obviously the Power BIs as well, Tableaus, quite a lot of different solutions out there.
And AI, is that coming into it as well?
It's coming into it. Although AI is here to stay, I'm also looking at the basics. This kind of fundamental question won't be solved by AI. It's more the business understanding what they want, the SEO being able to provide that information and working together. So I think a lot of it is still this communication piece, actually getting it across. AI is very good for very specific things. For example, we talked about forecasting these stock of these sales items. It's brilliant for something like that, a very specific task. But I think it's still in our heads, so the blue sky, thinking about how to get it together, join it together, what do we need, and then we can then do the automation afterwards.
Lucia Dello is founder and director at Dello Insights, and you can find her over at delloinsights.com. Lucia, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you, David. It was great to be on again.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.